You can. 5 minutes prior to the
We are here,
starting
yes.
moment.
Bonsoir à tout le monde. Merci.
Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for attending and taking part in our seminar on the Palestinian Arab community in Israel. Now, you know that the Socialists group wants to play a key role when it comes to relations and policies focusing on the Middle East in the European Parliament. And today we want to make a contribution to that. It's a very difficult point in time at the moment. I mean, that's been true for many years now, but it's a very difficult period at the moment. And we do want to build strong links with the main political actors in the region and with civil society, both in Israel and in Palestine. This afternoon, we have French, English and Italian interpretation. I'm speaking French, that should be okay then. And today we have a very important delegation with us. We have some very eminent speakers, and you will hear from them straight away. They represent the Palestinian Arab community in Israel. We have Mr. Ahmed Tibi heading up the delegation, and he's the deputy speaker in the Knesset, and he is the chairman of the Arab Movement for Change. And we also have, I'm not sure if he's here yet, but we also have two other members from this delegation. We have Osama Sadi, who is on his way, and he is the Director General of the Arab Movement for Change, and he's also a member of the Knesset. And we also have Mr. Jafar Farah as well. He's also quite well known by many of you. He's very, very active, and he is very close to us all. He is the director of the Muswa Centre. And I'd like to welcome you all very warmly to the European Parliament. And I'd also like to apologise for Mr. Patella's absence here. He's travelling to Ankara at the moment, and he is going to attend the judgment for Selim Itas, who is the head of one of our brother parties in Turkey. And as you know, he will be appearing in court tomorrow. So that's why Mr. Patala is not here with us. But we are representing him, I myself, and Mr. Bostinaru, who is the vice president of the group. So, we do firmly believe that the Palestinian Arab community has a very important role to play when it comes to completing the peace process between the Israelis and Palestinians. And this community, we believe, can also play a key role, but it's facing some huge challenges at the moment, and it still has to fight for its individual and collective rights. And this afternoon we're going to talk about that community's situation within the country, and we're going to talk about their contribution to the peace process. And this is something that we all need to hear more about. I'd also like to thank the members of the GUE and Greens group. We think that this is an initiative which is supported by various political groups, and we do work in a coordinated way with these other political groups. And I'd like to thank Mr. Neoclitis from GUE for attending. He's also the chair of the European Parliament's delegation for relations with Palestine, and I'd like to thank him for attending. And then I'd also like to thank Mr. Reinhard Bütikofer for attending as well. He's from the Greens group, and he's here today as well. I think it's very important to show that there are several political groups around the table today, and that they do get round the table to try to support this peace process that we've been waiting for such a long time. So we're going to change the seminar format. We're going to try to cover various different subjects together to make sure that everybody talks about what they want to talk about today, and we have to finish around 5 p.m. So I don't want to extend this introduction. I would just like to say that the Socialist group still believes in and is still fighting for a two-state solution. We haven't budged in our position, even though we know very well that there are various different decisions which are being taken by the Israeli government, and that these decisions are calling into question this two-state solution. But this solution is something that we still believe in and support. So we do want to hear from the guests today. The European Parliament, at its next session in Strasbourg, is going to adopt a resolution which will defend this position, which will defend the two-state solution. And so that's why it's also very important for us to hear from our friends and comrades today. So maybe I could start by giving the floor to Mr. Tibi. And we'll try to keep these presentations brief so that we have time for a debate afterwards. Thank you very much for attending, and thank you very much, Mr. Tibi.
Thank you very much. I would like to thank you, Elena and Victor, all of you, my fellows and comrades here in the podium. We are gathering here today, myself and MK Osama Saadi, he's in his way, and Jafar Farah, in order to talk about Palestinians in Israel, about the Arab citizens of the State of Israel. It is very much relevant today because just before 2 hours, a racist bill, very dangerous one, was voted in the Knesset by preliminary reading, which is called the Nationality Bill, talking about self-determination only for the Jewish people in this homeland, and downgrading the status of the Arab minority, for example, canceling the official status of the Arabic language. You expect after 69 years of the creating of Israel that the state will upgrade the status of its minority, all citizens, and deal with self-confidence with those citizens who did not immigrate to the country. Why we did not immigrate? Because we were born in our homeland. We are indigenous people. Instead, it seems that the State of Israel is not so confident in itself after 69 years, and they are targeting the 20% of the population, the Arab minority, Palestinians in origin, in all aspects of life. That's why it is very much important to put a focus here by you, the European Parliament, on this minority, because the European Parliament dealt a lot in the past about minorities all over the world, Syria, Iraq, Iran. We deserve that you should concentrate on us. with a special session here in the European Parliament. That's why we are very much thankful about this seminar, in which we are addressing you about all aspects of life of us, both from the civic point of view and from the national point of view. From the civic, I am here to tell you that, yes, Israel has no constitution, but it has 11 basic laws. Basic law is less than constitution, but more than ordinary law. According to the basic law of Israel, Israel is defined already before 30 years. Here is Mr. Osama Saadi. Israel is defined as Jewish and democratic in the basic law. Notice, Jewish before democratic. It is not coincidental. I am here to say, and everywhere, that there is a contradiction between the two values. If you are democratic, you definitely say that all citizens are equal. Jews, non-Jews, Jews, Arabs. But if you define yourself ethnically as a Jewish state, you are saying that Jewish citizen, Moshe, for example, is superior to non-Jewish, Ahmed. And this contradicts the first value of democracy. That's why we do believe that we should concentrate in the democratic aspect of the state and enhance democracy in order to create equal terms for all citizens. And then comes the government and create this new bill, which is one of tens of motions initiated by this government and by the coalition, pushing the Arab minority to the corner to tell them, maybe you are a guest, we are tolerated guests in your homeland, in your country, and we are not. We are not guests. We are owners of this land. We are indigenous people. Israel is marketing itself as the only democracy in the Middle East. But as I said, Israel is democratic towards Jews and Jewish towards Arabs. That's why I am calling it ethnocracy, ethnic democracy. More, I'm calling it eudocracy. And if you are not absolute democracy, if you are not dealing equally with all citizens, all kinds of citizens, definitely you are not absolute democracy. You are selective. And there is no selection in democracy. If I can tell all aspects of life, there is a discrepancy between Jews and Arabs. There is a huge gap. Allocation of land, budgets, infrastructure, employment, agriculture, industrial zones, education, sport, culture. There is a huge gap between Jews and Arabs. We are 20% of the population, but we are only 10% of the employees in the public sector. There are places and offices, governmental offices, with no Arabs at all. For example, the Central Bank of Israel. There are 0 Arab employees. Imagine that in the United States or in any other place, there will be no Afro-Americans all these years. It will be called governmental racial discrimination, official. We are struggling in order to bridge this gap, in order to tackle this discrimination. But we are facing, the Arab minority, the joint list, we are facing the most radical and extreme government ever in the history of Israel. Not only against its Palestinian citizens, but even in so-called the peace process. I don't like the word peace process because there is no peace and even there is no process. The political process. Why? In the Palestinian government, all ministers or Palestinian ministers support two-state solution. In the Israeli government, there is no one Israeli minister who support independent Palestinian state. No one, including Prime Minister Netanyahu. Because Netanyahu, when he is talking about Palestinian state, he is talking about Palestinian state, and I challenged him once, when I was in the podium, he was there. I said, can you tell Mr. Netanyahu, independent Palestinian state or sovereign Palestinian state? He said no, because he wants military Israeli presence in the Jordan Valley for decades. He wants to control overall security. He wants to control water resources. As to say, it is a dwarf Palestinian state with no sovereignty or independence. And then he is going to his demand, and it is relevant for us here in this seminar, of recognizing Israel as a Jewish state. First of all, it is already there in the Israeli Basic Law for the last 30 years. But usually, ladies and gentlemen, when there is a new state, usually the new state is waiting for recognition, not asking the new state to recognize the old one and the strong one. And recognition by the international law is in three aspects: borders, sovereignty, and independence, not definition. Even Iran is not asking Belgium or France or the United States to recognize Iran as an Islamic state. And why the PLO is saying no, and we, as leadership of the Arab minority, saying no to this demand, or the definition, because of two reasons. One, if I will accept this definition, I am saying definitely that I accept that there is one group of citizens, Jewish citizens, who are superior, and my group of Arab citizens who are inferior. And I will never accept that. Second, the second reason is the refugee issue. If the PLO will accept Israel as a Jewish state, it will automatically, Israel will say the refugee issue is not even on the table. Go and deal with them in the West Bank. That's why we do believe that Netanyahu is using this condition as an obstacle. And he is good in excuses. He's very good even. Look, for example, what are the rules that are being carried on by the Israeli government. There are three types of rules carried on by the government of Israel. First of all, democracy. Yes. But this democracy is only for 80% of the population, for the majority, for Jewish citizens. Ethnic democracy. The second type is racial discrimination against the rest, 20% Arab citizens of the State of Israel. The third type, carried on by the Israeli government, is occupation and apartheid in the West Bank in the occupied territories 1967. Israel is marketing itself and being dealt with by Europe, by the United States, as democracy and the only democracy in the Middle East. Israel should be dealt according to these three types of rules: democracy for Jews, discrimination against Arabs, and occupation and apartheid. And they should be asked how you are dealing with your minorities, with your citizens, according to the international universal values of equality, freedom, tolerance, understandings, coexistence. We are the most supporter of coexistence based on equal rights and bilateral respect of national dignity and national rights. I talked in the beginning about the nationality bill. It is the last bill, but it is not the first, and it will not be the last. There were the deportation law of deporting MKs, mainly Arab MKs, from the Knesset, which was accepted before 3 months. The bill which prevent the prayer call, al-adhan, from Muslim mosques in all Arab towns and in Jerusalem. It's a crazy bill. It seems that it came because Netanyahu is so unhappy about the prayer call from Jisr al-Zarqa, an Arab village near Caesarea where he lives. I am here to say that this government should be dealt as it is and should be tackled with the realities and the facts. And when we are talking about two-state solution and the Israeli-Palestinian conflict, we cannot bypass the issue and the hunger strike of the prisoners. 1,800 prisoners today are in the 24th day of hunger strike. Their demands are natural, humanitarian only: health, family visits, public phones, administrative detention, etc. These things were given to them before some years and were taken out. They are asking for these so simple, so humanitarian, and instead they are being under attack, psychological combat and war by Netanyahu and by the internal security minister. My colleagues Osama Saadi and Ja'far Farah will elaborate in other issues with the PowerPoint, but again, I would like to invite you to visit our towns, our villages, and to see directly what are the conditions of our living. How is this democracy is being conducted in the unrecognized villages in the Negev, without electricity, without water, without education, without streets, without infrastructure. And we are talking about year 2017 when I am talking about these details. About administrative detention, about juvenile arrest, and about demolition of houses in the Negev, but not only in the Negev, in the Triangle in Kalansawa. Today, many houses were demolished in the south, in the Negev again. And this policy is directed by the Prime Minister himself. I am here again to highly appreciate the partnership agreement between my party, the Arab Movement for Change, and the SND. It is to say that you are focusing more on the issue of the Arab minority. We do believe that this is the right direction. The Arab Movement for Change is one of the most important parties in the Arab community, and I hope we will continue to cooperate in order to highlighten our life, all aspects of life, and to share together the values of peace, equality, tolerance, and national dignity. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Dr. Tibi. Mr. Osama Saadi, you have the floor.
Yeah, thank you. We are here, a delegation from the Arab Movement of Change, the chairman of the party, Dr. Ahmed Tibi, and me, and Mr. Ja'far Farah from Musawa Center. We here in order to promote and to sign on next visit on June with the partnership between us, AMC, and between the SND. We highly appreciate this invitation and the meetings between Mr. President and the Vice President, Mr. Bitelli, Elena, Victor, and the others, and also my friend Zoltan for arranging several meetings with the members of the S&D group and also with other parties, the Green parties, the Joey here, my friend, and also the EPP and others parties. We want to meet several and parties and MPs in order to enlighten our problems as a Arab minority in Israel. We are struggling on two issues, major issues. The first issues is the Palestinian issue and the ending occupation and establishing comprehensive and last peace and independent Palestinian state beside Israel on the borders of 1967. And because we are part of the Palestinian people, and on the other hand, we are a citizenship of the state of Israel. On the other hand, and the other issue that we are struggling is the equal rights and against the discrimination against us, the Israeli Arab Palestinian citizenship in Israel. As explained Dr. Tibi, we are facing discrimination in all aspects of life. This government and this coalition is the extreme government ever in Israel. If I told you that in the 17th Knesset, we are now in the 20th Knesset, in the 17th Knesset, in all the session of the Knesset, there was passes just 6 laws at the final reading. At the 18th Knesset, on 4 years, it was passes just 8 laws at final readings. In this Knesset, the 20th Knesset, we are just 2 years from 1st of April 2015 until now, the Knesset has passes more than 21 laws, racism, anti-democratic, anti-Palestinian, supporting settlements, and this is a huge number. And the dangerous law which passes in the Knesset before some month is the law which legalized settlements, and it's violating not just the international law and Geneva Fourth Convention, it's also violating the Israeli law. It's the first time that a government of Israel confiscating private Palestinian land and give it to settlements. And even the legal advisor of the government, the legal advisor of the Knesset, the legal advisor of the defense Israeli minister reject and oppose this law, and also this government and this coalition pass this law, and according to this law, they can confiscate any private Palestinian land and build settlements, and there is no need for permit, for license to build houses. And this law is now on the table of the Supreme Court. In the contra, the same coalition and the same government passed a law called Kamenetz Law, which dealt with construction and planning houses in Israel, and it's easier and give instruments for the government to more demolishing houses at Arab citizenship. And because of that, we see at the last month a huge and mass demolishing houses at Triangle, at Galilee, at the Negev. Today there was demolishing more than 10 houses at the Negev. There is a program to evacuate El-Hiran villages, more than 1,000 citizenship in this village, and they want to evacuate and destroy all the villages, and instead of it, to build a new settlements called Jewish settlements called Hiran. And we and the citizenship there suggest that the El-Hiran villages will be a neighborhood of this new town called Hiran, and they refused, and now they are planning to evacuate and destroy all these village. Because of that, we are struggling on these issues, and we are so happy with this partnership with the S&D and being here in the Parliament European and all this meeting in order to enlighten the world and Europe about the situation of us as the Arab minority. The last thing I want to emphasize what Dr. Tibi said about the hunger strike of Palestinian prisoners. I am the chairman of the prisoners committee in the joint list, and this issue is very important. There are more than 2,000 prisoners who are now in the 24th days of hunger strike. It's not political strike, it's a humanitarian. They are demand very basic and very human rights. All these rights, about 13 demands, these rights was given to the prisoners years ago, but after the kidnapping of the Shalit soldier, the authorities canceled these rights, and after releasing him, these rights didn't given back to the Palestinian prisoners, and the Jewish prisoners have these rights and more.
Mr. Jafar Farah.
I don't have a lot to add. Is it okay like this? But I will
don't
add.
think so.
Look, the faces of everyone here look so serious, but also I think most of the people around this table is looking for good news. And the only good news in the region was the joint list, was the fact that these guys, the leaders of the Arab community, created some kind of third political power that enabled the Arab community to come very strong and to give different direction than the direction that was led by the settlers. It's not only Netanyahu. It's mainly the settlers that see us as the main actor that can guarantee the 61 seats to end the occupation and to end the discrimination policy. This is why all these series of laws are the wave of laws. It's coming from the house, from the home of the settlers, Habayit HaYehudi Party and Bennett Party. They are the ones that are leading this wave of discrimination. You know, if you go, there is an NGO called Regavim. Go to their website. They are targeting the government. They are asking the government every week to implement home demolition in the Bedouin community in the Negev. It's not that there is no land in the Negev. There is enough land. All the demands of the Bedouin community in the Negev is about 2% of the Negev land, not Israel land. If you go from Beersheba to Eilat, you drive like 3-4 hours, you almost don't find anything. They still run after the Bedouin community, and every week, today, they demolished another 11 houses. It's because they want us out of the game, want these political groups in the Arab community, the core group that can guarantee the 60. We did that in 93 to 95. It was 5 Arab members of the Knesset between 93 to 95 that they gave Rabin government the majority needed to approve the Oslo Agreement. In 2005, in the disengagement from Gaza, the Arab community was against the disengagement because we are in favor of peace agreement. Still, the international community came to Dr. Ahmad Tibi, and Arafat came to Dr. Ahmad Tibi and told him, support the disengagement. And they did that in the committees, and they approved that. They gave Sharon government the majority needed to approve the disengagement 2005. That's why we are targeted as a community, and that's why the leaders of the settlers today are targeting the Arab community. Now, I don't want to tell you that 56 Arab citizens have been killed by police forces, by police, and no investigation almost. 2 police officers were convicted in killing Arab citizens. You can see the pictures of home demolitions in the Bedouin community. You can see always the incitement. You can go to the football game of Bitar Jerusalem for 90 minutes. They stand there, death to the Arabs, death, Mavit l'Aravim, Mavit l'Aravim. I know that there is representatives of the Israeli embassy here. It's about time to tell the Israeli government if any football team in Israel will do the illegal. It's illegal to do it in Europe. If Barcelona will stand, if people in Barcelona will stand and say, death to the Catalans, for example, it will not happen, of course, they will not play anymore in the league. Why? Bitar Jerusalem is still in the Israeli league, and it's also in the Europe League. It's important for us to say there is shrinking of spaces. Yes, Musawa is targeted. But it's much more the political leadership of the Arab community is targeted. We were happy to see the Minister of Foreign Affairs, the German Minister of Foreign Affairs, Reinhard, it's good news coming from Germany, that he insisted last week to meet with the human rights organizations in Israel. We call every leader of the European people in every place. He can be EPP and Christian Democratic, and he can be GUI, to come to the region and to make sure to meet with the political leadership of the Arab community, as well as to meet with the civil society, with the Arab civil society. We need to be visible. The Arab community is 20% of the population. If we, after we united ourselves and we are building our institutions, I'm happy to be here. I know that we were here for the last 10 years. It was much easier for us as civil society organization. I am happy that today the three parties, and I'm calling the EPP and the ALDE and other groups, to upgrade the relationship, the political relationship. It wasn't easy negotiation with the SND. It was long process of negotiation, and I'm happy that finally you are upgrading this relationship, and I think the Green and the GUI can join the effort and find a way to give much more visibility to the leaders of the Arab community. It's the first time for Arab members of the Knesset from the third political party that is coming here. The hunger strike, you have to deal with it before Trump will come to the Middle East. It's in the 23rd. Because they will keep pushing. Nobody wants in Israel strike and demonstrations in the streets of Bethlehem when Trump will visit Bethlehem. So they are pushing in these days the prisoners in a very tough and ugly way. The pictures of Marwan Barghouthi that were released last few days, it's like part of this psychological pressure on the Palestinian people, and not only the refugees. More than 6,000 Palestinian prisoners. It's about time to end this tragedy. A kid, 16 years old, she went to suicide. They shoot her 20 bullets. What's that? This kid should be maximum taken to place to deal with her serious problems. She's becoming much more soldier against soldiers. Girls that come with a knife, small knife, and suddenly 22 bullets in her body. Why? This treatment is for kids all over the occupied territories, and it's coming inside the green line. I am proposing to have parliamentary question. With the NGO law, when it came to Israel, and Osama was in the Constitution Committee, it came with very tough language against human rights organizations. The end, and as a result of the international community and the German government did a lot of work. Today it was approved in the Knesset, this nationality law. It was approved the first reading, 48-41. We didn't see yet any kind of reaction coming out from the European Commission saying, no way, this law should not be approved. We hope that you as a parliamentarians ask the European Commission to do what needs to be done. The same thing that was done, at least with the NGO law, to make sure that the Israeli government that supported this law will change the language as a result of international and local pressure, and we will do a local pressure. Our job is to struggle and to convince the Jewish population. Now I want to say, in the Palestinian relation, we, the Palestinian community in Israel, have responsibilities. We have 15,000 students that study in the Jordanian universities and the West Bank universities. We strengthen the Palestinian economy in Jenin, in Nablus. Nobody put the numbers, but I think we contribute to the Palestinian economy in the OPT a little bit more even than what the quartet is giving to the OPT. That's very important. We want to have an access to Gaza Strip. Gaza Strip is isolated, and cutting 30,000 salaries and cutting budget from the EU to Gaza Strip, it means catastrophe in Gaza Strip. I want just to say, look, Palestinian reconciliation, it's the job and the responsibility of the Palestinian people. You have to feed the people and the forces that are interested in reconciliation in the Palestinian side. In parallel, we want to be very proactive in outreaching to the Jewish population in Israel. If each one of us, of the 20% of the population in Israel, will take one Jewish citizen, and try to convince him, we will need the Israeli left to convince 10 to 11%. We have been marginalized. We haven't been invited around the table to do our duty in the end of the day, to outreach to the Jewish population and to try to do our best to liberate our people and to liberate the Jewish people from this occupation and discrimination mentality. They are afraid from the Arab community. Bibi is afraid from the Arab community. He was targeting the Arab community in the election day. That's why it's important, this step and this seminar and these meetings is important to strengthen the participation of the Arab community, the visibility of the Arab community, but not only. I do call you in the near future not to keep calling only the Israeli left. Israel is not only about left and right. Israel, there is also identity issues and social issues. There is 1 million Russians. I don't see any reason why we should keep them in the hands of Lieberman and the extreme settlers. They live in Haifa, third of Haifa. I'm coming from Haifa. They work with Arab workers. There is a lot of Arab physicians that work and know them and speak the language. It's about time that we, with the help of the European institutions, outreach also to the Jewish public and change the discourse of fear, the discourse of separation, the discourse of occupation, and the discourse of discrimination of the Arab community. This is our responsibility. You know, today the opposition in Israel is 55 seats, which means that you need to do your best to get another 6 to 7 seats to change and to get different coalition than this extreme coalition. We have job to do, we have responsibility to do, and I thank you for this effort and this upgrade of the relationship with the Arab community. I call you to help us to outreach to more and more, also to more and more communities in the Jewish public. We want, in the end of the day, to end the tragedy of the region. We don't want to become again refugees. The citizenship law that have been approved as a temporary law in 2003 is creating another problem, another wave of Palestinian refugee citizens of the State of Israel that are married to Palestinians in the West Bank, that they are leaving Israel and Palestine today and moving to Berlin and to Romania. It's about time to make sure that any discriminatory legislation that is coming on the table of the Knesset, you have to react to that and to say clearly, we want Israel as real democracy and as the biggest partner of Israel in economy and trade and Horizon 2020 and football. It's about time to expect from Israel to behave as a democratic country, and it's not behaving like this today. Thank you.
Merci beaucoup. Nous passons maintenant.
Thank you very much. So now we'll move on to some contributions by members of the Parliament. I'll give the floor to Neoklis Siliokitis. Now, as I said, he's also the chair of the Delegation for Relations with Palestine. Neoklis.
Dear friends, Elena, Victor, first of all, let me thank the S&D Group both for this initiative as well for your invitation. I would also like to welcome your honorable guests, especially the friends and colleagues coming from the joint list, the Dr. Ahmad Dibi, the Deputy Speaker of the Knesset, the Chairman of the Arab Movement for Change, the Mr. Osama Saadi, the Director General of Arab Movement for Change, and the old friend and colleague, Mr. Jafar, Farah, director of Mosava Center, the Advocacy Center for Arab Citizens of Israel. Dear friends, the racist policies and policies of exclusion imposed on the Palestinian Arab community of Israel influence almost the 20% of the country's population. The Israeli state institutionalized this racism through a complex of draconian laws, which consider the Palestinian Arab citizens of Israel as a second-category citizens, a complex of laws oppressing them and restricting their liberties, a complex of laws that allows and legitimizes the systematic demolition of their homes and the systematic seizures of their land. It is well known that the rise of the most conservative nationalistic powers in Israel and their inclusion in the government has triggered tension and pushed the discrimination and oppression of the Palestinian citizens of Israel to a new high level. It is said more than once that Israel is using politics of the apartheid, seeking to create Badustans instead of both recognize equal rights for its Palestinian citizens or to recognize a sovereign Palestine state of the borders of 1967 and East Jerusalem as its capital. Only 3 days ago, the Israeli minister have the green light to a bill excluding the Arab language from unofficial language of Israel, and we heard from Dr. Dibi that they passed through also as a first reading for the Parliament, and we publicly condemn these recent events against the Palestinian Arab citizens of Israel, as we always do. It is not long ago that people were killed or injured due to the Israeli army's aggression in Kalasawe, a town with an Arab majority, and the Bedouin village of al-Hiram in the Negev desert. Let me choose this opportunity to reaffirm our solidarity to them. I also like to express our solidarity from GUNGA to the members of Knesset we are also injuring, including the leader of the joint list, Ayman Odeh, during the demonstrations against this demolition in January 2017. Of course, our solidarity goes to all the progressive forces who are constantly fighting for the friendship between the Arab and Jewish citizens of Israel, including, of course, the Arab movement for change, the Hadash movement, the Communist Party of Israel, the peace movement in Israel, and all the consensus objectors, these Israeli citizens who chose not to join the army and altogether who oppose the oppression of the Palestinian Arab community of the country and dare to defend the right of Palestinians to a sovereign state. We urge all of these forces to continue their struggles for the equality and rights for the Palestinian Arab citizens of Israel, since they could play a significant role in building understanding and cooperation between Israel and Palestinians, and hence bring a positive contribution to the Middle East peace process. At the same time, we urge them to continue their work on informing us on the situation of Palestinian Arab citizens of Israel. It is important to continue struggling for these people's rights on all possible fronts. The West is very loud in other human rights violations, rightly or so, of course, and it often even take military action against sovereign states. But in the case of Israel, it closed its eyes outrageously. The EU must hold Israel to the standards and values of which it is built and not press onward with deepening relations, whilst at the same time condemning the discrimination against the Palestinian citizens of Israel. We must be coherent in our action. If Israel wishes to be considered a democratic country to the standard to which the EU holds itself to be democratic, it must actually respect Palestinian human rights and international law. It must also end the 15 years long Israeli occupation of the West Bank, Gaza, and East Jerusalem, and that will pave the way for peace and for two-state solution. Thank you very much for your attention.
Yes, and now Mr. Reinhard Bütikofer from the Greens.
First of all, I want to thank S&D for staging this event. And second, I want to apologize to everybody because I will have to leave right after this. I'm already keeping people waiting at another panel. We as European Greens welcome the fact that this delegation from the joint list is giving additional, very important visibility to your situation, your concerns, and your views, because that is indeed needed to give these issues and these concerns and these views the relevancy that they merit. I have been in contact for many years with Jafar Farah. For me, it's the first opportunity to meet MK Tibi and MK Saadi. And the European Greens plan to visit Israel in October to talk to people from the joint list on how and what we might do to cooperate, just as we have cooperated with our progressive friends from the Jewish side, like the Zionist left from Meretz or the Green Movement and others. And for us, it's not a choice between talking to some and not talking to the others. We will pursue a course that says, let's talk to all of them. Number two, I would want to point out, and I think it almost doesn't need that after the presentations that have been made, that tensions in the relationship between the Arab minority in Israel and the majority are rising. And that's bad news, because while on one hand there's really not much of a peace process going on to speak of, it is hardly conceivable that without a fair deal within Israel, there could be a stable two-state solution at all. So the probability of possibly achieving over time a two-state solution is tied in very fundamentally with the probability of getting a fair deal between all the groups, including the Arab minority within Israel. Third, I do not agree with those who describe Israel as an apartheid country or an apartheid state. I refuse to accept that description. I think Israel is indeed a democracy. And I think that an argument today over whether it is indeed possible to have a country that has at the same time a Jewish and a democratic character is a distraction from what we should focus on. We should focus on the situation where discrimination is being put in place, or where there are attempts to put discrimination in place that had not been there before. And I think it would be our duty not to have theoretical deductions why it has to go that way because Israel isn't democratic anyhow, but rather to unite all those who would be willing, for whatever reason, to unite against that development that is negative. That's what I would focus on. And I'm very grateful for a couple of words that Jafar Farah said, because he highlighted a very important point in that regard. He highlighted the need to reach out to the Jewish public, and he highlighted the need to reach out to other groups that also have concerns. And I think that's extremely important if we want to put the focus on the democratic character of the development that we want to see happening. That this kind of approach of uniting all those that fight discrimination of whatever shape and form, that this is being pursued, and we are willing to help in that regard. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Now we have a little time for some questions or interventions coming from the floor. Does anyone? Yes, madam, yes.
Bonjour.
Good afternoon. I'm a European citizen. I'm an IT expert and a physics expert. I don't agree with financial support for the Palestinian organizations in Israel, and I'll explain my position as a European citizen. I've got lots of documents that show that funds from the EU and the UN are used by Palestinian institutions to build infrastructure for terrorists, to buy rockets, and to pay salaries to Palestinian terrorists who are in prison in Israeli prisons, and to pay their families. And I do not want the money that I pay in taxes to end up there. So I have a question for Mr. TB. Where is it written down in legislation for the Israeli state? Where is it written down in black and white that Palestinians are inferior to Jews? I don't want to hear your interpretation. I want to know where it is written down. So could you please read that out to me? Could you tell me where that reference is? And then, what is your opinion about salaries paid to terrorists because they have killed Jews simply because they are Jews? Okay, you have explained your position. Thank you very much. We'll give the floor to other people. Please don't repeat yourself.
Good afternoon. I am Kala Hungary, representative of the Democratic Party of Iranian Kurdistan. I have a question from Mr. TB. Well, my party believes in very democratic coexistence for the Arab and the Jewish people in Israel. But you know, there are many external factors that have impact on the issue inside Israel, like Islamic Republic of Iran. Islamic Republic of Iran has always supported Hezbollah in Lebanon against Israel, and Hamas inside, and the fundamental group inside Israel and Palestine. Do you think that, and also we have the same issue in Iran like the Kurds. There is a Kurdish question in Iran. And also the Islamic State in Iran. Do you believe that the Islamic Republic have had a negative impact on the your question inside Israel or no? Thank you.
Oui, quelqu'un d'autre?
Anybody else? No? Okay. Mr. TB, I'll give you the floor.
Thank you very much. You have to be citizen of the State of Israel in order to feel what is superior, what is inferior, what is unequal relation to citizens because they are not Jewish. As I said, this bill today and the definition of the state as Jewish creates two groups of citizens. One is getting benefits of all the resources of the state, and one is not. And for example, land allocation, according to the law that allows the Jewish National Fund to control land that could not be, and I am quoting, sold, rented, leased to non-Jew. Sold, rented, leased to non-Jew, written, black and white. And do you know how much land in the country is this law covered? More than 95%. In 1948, we had almost 92% of the land. Today, we, Arab citizens of the State of Israel, own only 3% of the land by private property. You know, land does not favorite and fly. It is confiscated, and people are expelled. Their houses are being and is demolished. This is one. Second, if you are flying in airplane from above Israel, you will know definitely which is a Jewish town and which is an Arab town. If you are traveling by land in your car, you will know according to the road, are you going to Arab village or are you going to settlement or to kibbutz or to Jewish? Because infrastructure is something different. There is a huge gap between conditions. Budgets. There is a gap between budgets for Arab students and Jewish students in high secondary schools, 40% more for the Jewish student than the Arab student. It is not written that Jewish students should gain 40% more than Arab, but it is the practice. These are the numbers. Not for once, systematically speaking. This creates the gap and the difference between Jews and Arabs. But I want to challenge you and the government. Let us exchange rules. The Jewish citizens will live in our terms for 1 week, and we will live for your terms for 1 week. You will start to scream after half a day. And then you will demand equal rights for all. About financing so-called terrorists. Before 1 year, we were invited, all the MKs, to an event in the Knesset called Commemoration of the National Hero Meir Har-Zion. National Hero Meir Har-Zion. Who is Meir Har-Zion? And the people who talked from the podium are the Prime Minister, the Speaker, head of the opposition, and whoever you want. We were not there. Why? Because Meir Har-Zion, the national hero, he is commemorated. There are streets on his name. In the 50s, I think, or 70s, one of his family were killed. He took a big knife, and entered the Jordanian lands, crossed the borders, and he cashed one Jordanian family, Bedouin family. He slaughtered all members of the family by his hand. He killed them all, but he remained only the elder person in order to tell the village that his family was slaughtered. This man is called the hero of Israel, and there is commemoration led by the Prime Minister of Israel in the Knesset. This is, madam, is double standard. You should learn history and facts, and then you should preach me. Thank you very much. About Iran, we have nothing to do in Iran as an Arab sector and Arab citizens. United States is affecting us much more worse than other countries in the world. We are trying to improve our situation with the United States. There are spots with no influence of Iran. We have no friction. We don't want other countries to intervene in our internal issues and internal policy. You know, I am not so happy with what is going on with the Arab and Islamic world. The split in the Arab world, the bloodshed, the war, the disasters which took place and taking place, Iraq, Syria, Libya, other places, make us feel sad and frustrated. Sometimes I feel very much angry, and I feel shame when I saw some photos of slaughtered families and people, and this deportation and runaway of people from their homeland. It's a shame for the humanity, and I am part of this humanity. I wanted also to talk about something that yet we did not talk about banning political parties and movements. For example, the banning of the Islamic movement by the Israeli security services. For the last 1 year and a half, the Islamic movement is being banned, and the leadership of this movement is being arrested. Every couple of months, another leader is being arrested, and their association is being banned. The incitement in the social media, the incitement led and done by Jewish surfers is almost 200 folds more than Arab surfers. But the arrests are much more in Arab society than in Jewish society. Just before 2 weeks, one Israeli citizen wrote in the Twitter, Ahmad Tibi should be killed directly by a bullet to his head, and I am ready to do that. He was not arrested, but imagine that Muhammad from Taibe and Arab young will write such a sentence that Lieberman should be shot by a direct bullet in his hand, and I am ready to do that. The Israeli police will attack his house at 4 o'clock in the morning, and he will be arrested, and his uncle will be questioned, and his mother will be pulled out from the house. This is what is going. I am not imagining things. This is facts, madam, and we all should combat incitement, racist remarks. We are calling here, we are as a party, Arab Member for Change, calling for tolerance, coexistence, but not coexistence based on unequal rights and terms. Coexistence based on equal dealing with all citizens, mainly indigenous. Thank you very much.
Do you want to say a word on the budget for Palestinian organizations that Madam asked for?
Look, I think this question is, I think, the Palestinian organizations inside Israel, we don't get a lot of, like it's mainly human rights organizations. The Palestinian civil society is less than 6% of the NGOs in Israel. You have to know that the Palestinian citizens of the State of Israel are living inside the Green Line. And when you talk about the Palestinian organizations in the West Bank and Gaza Strip, the European aid that is giving to the Palestinians in the OPT is mainly to try to prevent the next wave of refugees, Palestinian refugees, that may come here in the end of the day. You don't want them. After the Lebanon war, when Israel, and after the Lebanon and Sabra and Shatila massacre, you had over than 100,000 Palestinian refugees run away from Lebanon to Europe. Today, we see the waves of refugees coming from Syria and coming from other places. Look, we, the Palestinian community in Israel, third of us are internal displaced people. People are living 200 meters or 2 kilometers or 20 kilometers from their homes and villages that are destroyed. 30% of the Palestinian community in Israel are internal displaced people that can't go back to their villages. And it's Christians and Muslims and Kurds and Armenians. It's not only, Iqrith and Bir'im, Christian villages. In the 50 and 51, al-Hiran, that was demolished lately, they have been moved in the 50s by the Israelis to this new location. They gave them weapons and told them protect the border with the West Bank. The Israelis, the Israeli government. Now they demolished their houses and they killed Yaqub Abu al-Qi'an and they called him terrorist. He was a teacher. His brother is inspector in the Ministry of Education. When you talk about education, the gap, according to the Ministry of Finance, the Israeli Ministry of Finance, I can send you their report in Hebrew. It's like this report. The gap yearly between Arab children and Jewish children, the cost of this gap is 1.4 billion shekel. The current Ministry of Education that control all the education system, also the education system, the Arabic education system, refuse to bridge the gap of 1.4. They discriminate. It's according to the ministry, to the Israeli Ministry of Finance, in 1.4 billion shekel. I have to tell you, look, since 48, it was clear for us in 48 that there is three roots for our tragedy. The Arab regimes, the international intervention, the British mandate, and the Zionist movement. We were isolated until 67 from the West Bank. It's clear for us today also, and this is what we said, and I will repeat it again. We are the only community in Israel and also in the Palestinian people that since 48 we haven't been involved in any military confrontation. Any military confrontation. Our leadership was very brave in standing all over and calling Hamas and calling Fatah. Don't recruit our people, our young people, to the military confrontation since 48. That's true, Doctor? Yes. Hamas, everybody, sooner or later, they accepted this position. We think that our status, our uniqueness, is outreaching to the Jewish public and liberate the Jewish public from this occupation and isolation mentality. There is nothing good in isolating 6 million Jews in the Middle East. Nothing good. Israel should be a state that have peaceful relationship with its Palestinian neighbors first. It have to be a state that will respect and give and guarantee the Arab population full rights. And I expect Kurdish people and I expect Jewish people in Belgium to stand with us, because you know what it means to be minority. You know what it means when you are discriminated. I don't want anybody here to replace somebody living in an unrecognized village without water, without electricity, without sewage systems, without housing rights, and every week to come and to expect the police to come and to destroy your tents. 109 times the village of Al-Araqib. This is a report. You can take it, read it. It talks about discriminatory laws. I don't want just to put, numbers and words. Come and visit us, lady. We want to see you in Al-Araqib. We want you to be there in Al-Araqib. And I am sure that the Israeli lobby will pay you the flight ticket. Come, visit us, stay in Al-Araqib village, and then tell us what it means to be second-class citizens. Thank you.
Yes, Osama.
I want to emphasize that there is a lot of laws that discriminating at laws and officially the Arab citizenship in Israel. The most dangerous law is the lands law. And Dr. Tibi said that more than 95% of the land in Israel is called land of the state. There is no private land in Israel. Just about 5% of all the land of Israel is private land, and we are, the Arab, own just 3% and a half from the private land. More than 50% of the state of land is owned by the Keren Kayemet. And the Keren Kayemet, as Dr. Tibi read from quotation from the law, is forbidden to transfer the land to a stranger. And the Arab is defined as stranger, so we can own the land from the state of Israel. There is a law which called Committee Acceptance Law, which passed in Israel, in the Knesset, that it's forbidden and didn't allow Arab citizenship to live in many villages or neighborhoods in Israel, because there is what's called committee, and this committee can refuse that Arab citizenship lives in these places. The citizenship law, which was for 1 year at 2003, and it's forbidden for families to be together if he married a female wife from the West Bank. It's now renewed for the 14 times, and in June will be renewed another time. It's racism, officially law, because it's forbidden for any citizenship from Israel, Arab Israel, to marry from the West Bank. Also, the Jews came from anywhere and immediately getting citizenship because of that. We said the nationality bill is the last bill motion, but it's a dangerous one. About the prisoners and the aid of the EU, most of the aid of the EU is going to project on the West Bank and Gaza for infrastructure, for health, for education, and there's no payments from the EU to prisoners, and the Palestinian Authority paid the prisoners' families for the prisoners, because they want sources of life. They didn't pay them to kill Israelis, and the position of BA and the President Abu Mazen is well known, that he is against any harm of citizenship, any citizenship, and he's supporting popular and public struggle, and he didn't supporting any armed struggle. And I think you can check if the government of Israel pay and give rights and pay according and during the national insurance, they are paying to the family, to Yigal Amir, who is murdered prime minister in Israel. You know that? You can check that.
Merci beaucoup.
Thank you very much. No, I'm sorry, madam, we don't have any more time for questions, I'm afraid. Please. Please, can you respect the wishes of the chair? You asked a question. In fact, you asked several questions. You've received answers. You were shaking your head, so yes, I understand that you're not convinced by the answers, but that's the way it is. You asked a question, answers were given, that's democracy. Now I'd like to give the floor over to my friend and colleague, Mr. Bostinaro, to conclude. Go ahead.
Thank you very much. I will start thanking to the speakers, and most of all, to thank you all for having the patience to join normally, understandably, a bitter, dense discussion about realities. We knew that it's not easy to engage this topic. And if it would be easy, either wouldn't be organized or the problems would be solved much earlier. For us, it will be much easier not to engage this topic. But the S&D group, it's convinced that the peace process in the Middle East, it's fundamentally important. It's fundamentally important for the Israeli and Palestinian people living there. It's fundamentally important for the region, and it's fundamental for the global effort to reach a more stable and peaceful world. And this is why we are committed to continue our effort. And in 2014 and later, we took a decision. Today's event is just the consequences of that decision to institutionalize our dialogue and our cooperation with as many as possible political players and interlocutors from Israel, from Palestine, because only listening to them, only brokering some environment for dialogue, we can open the space for a potential future cooperation. We are not that yet towards the cooperation, but the whole idea that we did invite Labour, now the joint list, and then it will be in the fall, Meretz. We will organize in 28th, 29th of June in Brussels a major event on the commemoration of the 50 years of occupation with leading speakers from Israel, from Palestine, from United States, because we want to not only to commemorate, we want to see whether there is possible to advance, to contribute to something which is missing. And today, the atmosphere shows that it's dramatically missing. Trust, a readiness to listen to the other side, patience and the courage to confront the realities on both sides, because none of the sides is fully happy with the status quo and cannot be happy with the status quo for obvious reasons, from violence to double standards, from terrorist attacks to dramatic instability. All this does negatively impact the life conditions on both sides. It's too easy and too black or white to say that one side is happy, the other side is not, and we should take side of the part of the camp which we consider it's discriminated. If so, we will fail. And the very many decades of systemic failures have shown that we have to change the course, and we have to push in order to build up a bit more trust and a bit more confidence, without being naive. The naive and self-sufficient may say, we know and we have the solution. It's stupid and it's dangerous, because We don't know exactly how will going to be the development, and we don't have yet the solution. If someone would have it, would implement it in advance. The reality shows that under the current conditions, the whole we can do is to work with the two sides, no matter how difficult it is. And I have to confess myself to you, as an S&D vice president, and the one having so many friends in the two camps, in the Israeli one and in the Palestinian one. As a Romanian, a country which did recognize from the very beginning, among the top 3 countries in the world, the independent state of Israel and the Palestinian Authority. So I cannot buy lessons and teachings from others so easily. I know we have to try, with patience, to build up. And what we can do now as a group and equally as a union, we have to support clearly, explicitly, day by day, the two-state solution. The two-state solution based on the 67 borders with mutually agreed land swaps and Jerusalem as a capital of both states, as the only way to achieve a lasting peace between Israeli and Palestinians, with the two states having full right to live in peace, coexistence, and security, guaranteed security for the two sides. And we know very well that while some people are considering there is no possibility to achieve peace, we are the opposite opinion. We have to convince the Union to be part of any process, no matter how difficult it is, no matter how complicated the negotiations should be, but the Union to be part of this effort, which seems today to show a little reason of optimism after the visit of President Mahmoud Abbas to Washington. Contrary to the very many people which were considering this is only black or white on the US President agenda for the Middle East, I will rather be inclined to quote from President Abbas in the joint press conference, "With you, Mr. President, we have a chance." Am I correct, Dr. TV? And if so, we, the Union, and we, our S&D group, together with the political groups in the Parliament, we will do our best in order next week to reach a strong majority around a resolution which speaks about the peace process. We will call on both sides to stop any sorts of incitement, to pay attention to the dramatic need to build up more confidence, because the confidence building, to quote from Alon Ben Meir, one of our very dear friends, and he will be in June the guest of our event, we have to start again to build up confidence and trust from the grassroots level, which is not easy. We here, but equally we, the people living in Israel and living in Palestine. And we have equally to engage systematically and institutionally the Arab League, because they are the ones to launch something which is now considered the basics, the fundamental of any peace process, the Arab Peace Initiative, and equally to consider the very important role of the Quartet. While some people are disappointed with the till today delivery of the Quartet, we have to take note that in its relations with the UN Security Council, the Quartet role, it's very important. And for all these facts, plus our commitment to call on the national unity government in Palestine, because you cannot negotiate without a national unity government. And I welcome so much both my friends speaking about the role the Arab community can and should play in its relations with the Palestinian Authority and in its commitment to strengthen the ability of the Palestinian Authority for the building up of a national unity government, which will equally assume the governance over the Gaza Strip. These are equally important for us as a political family, for our, starting with today, political partners, the Arab Change for Movement, and equally for the Union. And this is our project. And I know we will probably not see immediate results, but we have a duty. We have a duty as a politicians, we have a duty as a human beings to try our best in order to move at least one single inch the peace process towards its fulfillment. And I know that via violence, via incitement, via instability, the peace cannot be achieved. And this is our commitment, and it's a way to share the legacy of Yitzhak Rabin, to fight the war for peace, and it's a way to show our responsibility for the global role of the Union as a project meant for peace in a continent which was experiencing two devastating world wars. Thank you to all, and this is only one step ahead in a much longer march. Our group is preparing for the future. Thank you again to all. Thank you to the participants, and be convinced that we will be an honest, as neutral as we can, political actor, because any one-sided approach, be it on the Israel side or on the Palestinian side, will be first considered by you unacceptable, and equally pragmatically will diminish our potential role to treat fairly our partners. Thank you again to all.
Merci. MKTB asked for 2 minutes for the floor.
Yeah. At the end, before I thank you all, I want to add. Usually, when there is a national conflict, there are two narratives. According to the Zionist narrative and the Palestinian narrative, fighters for the creation of Israel, according to the Zionist narrative, if they were the Haganah or Etzel before the creation of Israel, are heroes, are national symbols. According to Palestinians, or even the British mandate, they are terrorists. According to the national Palestinian narrative, Marwan Barghouti and his colleagues are national symbols, are heroes. According to the Israeli narrative, they are terrorists. I am not asking you to adapt the narrative of the Palestinians, but I am asking you to respect that there is another narrative representing another nation, another people. I think that ignorance, even in Israel, between Jews and Arabs, from both sides, from Arabs from one side and from Jews from the other side, enlarging the gap between Jews and Arabs. That's why we are calling our students in the school to learn Hebrew very well, to learn the Jewish culture in order to know better the population of the majority. I had a speech about Holocaust, madam. I don't know if you know my speech. It's being learned in universities about the empathy for those, for the families of survivors, or for those who were killed by this racist machine. Aside from this, I am willing to see and to feel empathy for those children who are being killed in the Palestinian side. feeling the pain of the other side is one step forward. And we should all be strong enough to have this feeling, to have this ability. And we Palestinians are victims inside Israel of racist policy in the occupied territories of occupation regime. And it is not easy to be victim, but it is much more difficult to be victim of the victim. And you, as a Jew, should understand very well why to be victim of the victim is much more challenging. Let us learn from history to change it for the sake of the future of all our children in order to stop being victims. It is possible. Peace is achievable. Understanding is mandatory. Thank you very much.
Je vous remercie.
Thank you very much. See you all again soon. Goodbye.